all knows the oil giant Citgo is a convicted felon by raising hands? Citgo is a convicted felon. The oil giant is a convicted felon. I did not put the press release in your packet, but down in Corpus Christi, the refinery in Corpus Christi, we indicted them, the local refinery, as well as the corporation. They are a convicted felon. This is all public knowledge. You can Google them, and you will find out that they were convicted. They were indicted in 2006, and we took them to trial in Corpus Christi, and they were found guilty for Clean Air Act violations. In June of 2007, we had a 5-week trial. That was international news. But how does that have anything to do with water? The allegation started off where they had some wastewater treatment ponds that they had to close by a certain period of time. If they did not close these ponds by a certain period of time, then we fined X millions of dollars by EPA. So they built these 2 wastewater treatment tanks. And I can say that because, again, we went to trial. It's all public knowledge. It calls tanks 116, 117 that were built along the Corpus Christi ship channel. The problem is, Citgo knew, even before these tanks were reconstructed from their own engineers, they were not going to function properly. That's just all public record. They knew this from their own engineers, but they still put them in operation. These tanks were massive. They're still there, not in operation. There are 2 tanks side by side, and each one of them are the width of a football field, with no roof on them. And I can say it now because they have been convicted of this for almost 10 years. Citgo knowingly admitted they were convicted for emissions from these tanks, for failing to install proper emission control equipment. And as a result, they're waiting to be sentenced. But this is a Clean Water Act case that turned into a Clean Air Act case. But Citgo is a convicted felon. But it started off as a Clean Water Act case. All because they were in a hurry to close the ponds and did not want to do it correctly. And I'm getting ready to show you a photograph, when they knew that they had a problem, and because the state was doing an announced inspection of these ponds, of these tanks, they would have oil in them, and Citgo would clean the tanks out before the TCEQ inspectors would come. So when the TCEQ inspectors would come, everything looked fine. Well, one day in March of 2002, when TCEQ did an unannounced inspection, now you can't see it on this photograph, I'm going to describe it to you. When they came and did an unannounced inspection, this is one of the facilities overlooking the Corpus Christi ship channel. This is what they saw. You can't see it, but this tank is the width of a football field. They found millions of gallons of crude oil in a tank that was only supposed to have wastewater. No roof. Again, clean water. Knowledge and intent. Knowledge and intent. Keeping with EPA also, in conjunction with various agencies and the state, we do vessel pollution cases. General Maritime Management, one of the leading ship transportation companies in the world, we convicted them off of a whistleblower. They were coming from the Lisbon, Portugal, and they dumped tens of thousands of gallons of crude oil before coming into Corpus Christi, Texas. You guys, again, what does that do with clean water? Way out in the open air, like the open water. It's still Clean Water Act. Clean Water Act. Our jurisdiction, as long as it's still in U.S. waters, we have jurisdiction. It's jurisdiction. What they knew that if you don't know anything about vessel pollution cases, because these ships travel internationally, the oil record, ORB, is the only thing that pretty much is standard. So whenever you come to your various ports of call, the U.S. Coast Guard or wherever the host country, you're supposed to turn that book over for analysis. They knew they had to have problems with the oil water separator. So they instructed crew members to do a bypass hose and dump tens of thousands of dirty oil on as they were crossing through the Straits of Florida and while en route to Corpus Christi. And with the help of 5 whistleblowers, who were 5 Filipinos, we convicted them. We had a trial and we convicted them. Now you want to see how big these are super tankers. These are massive ocean-borne super tankers. These are the size of these things. These things are massive. Lastly, this shows you how big the hole is in the side of this guy. That's the guy doing welding at the bottom. That shows you how big some of these things can hold up and how much oil these things can hold. Lastly, we have environmental fugitives. Again, at the very last page of your handout, you're going to have a website that shows you how to access all of our fugitives. But we here in Houston have a fugitive who's actually one of my fugitives where he's listed. His name is Yusuf Al-Latir. And I can say this, he is a fugitive that we are actively looking for right now. He's a bad guy. EPA, again, just like FBI, U.S. Marshals, and so forth, there are some pretty bad individuals for environmental crimes. And he's an individual who's on our fugitive website right now, and we're looking for him. We think we may have located him, but I'll keep that secret from this point. But we do have fugitives. As a matter of fact, if you go to EPA's website, we just recently caught one of our fugitives in Las Vegas, I think last week, for one of our environmental crimes. But EPA has environmental fugitives as well. That concludes my presentation. Again, before any questions are given, again, let me just say again, as a criminal investigator, there are certain things that I can't answer. There are things that I can't answer you questions on. I will not answer you questions in open criminal investigations, and I rely heavily on my civil counterparts, my technical people for answers, because there's some things I just don't know. So do I have any questions? Yes, sir.
With all the different aspects of your job, what are the most common serious EPA violations that y'all can take people of? You know, nationwide, what's the most common?
It's funny you say that, because when I used to work in Detroit, it was brickwork, like hazardous waste and water. But here in Texas, it's air, because all the petrochemicals. So it's difficult to say, because it's really based upon where you're located in the country. Because I know a lot of people, some agents on the west, like in Florida, vessel pollution cases, because of all, like, the various cruise ships and so forth. So it's really dependent on, but here in Texas, Louisiana, because this is what they call it, Cancer Row from I-10, from like New Orleans to Houston,